Welcome back to OtakuDaiKun. Dai-chan here, and you are watching the Waifu Files, a series where we discover and celebrate various anime and games through their lovely ladies. For this episode, we begin our journey covering the waifu of Fate Stay Night, with an initial focus on its prequel, Fate Zero. That's right, there are just too many gorgeous girls to fit into a single video. For as grim as it is, the waifu in Fate Zero are still totally worth looking into, and I hope you enjoy it. Any waifu that appear in Zero, but are more prominently featured in Stay Night, will be saved for the next video. Without further ado, let's dive in. Fate Zero is set in the Japanese Fuyuki City, where mages fight to the death in the Fourth Holy Grail War. At their side are powerful familiars called heroic spirits, servants summoned from historical legend to test their skills in the modern era. Each master and servant have their own desires they wish the Grail to grant them, and so they duke it out within the city's shadows. The original purpose of this war was to restore the Einzbern family's lost true magic, Heaven's Feel. In general, this family specializes in the creation of artificial humans, or homunculi. One of those homunculi, Justeaze von Einzbern, founded the Holy Grail War, along with the Tohsaka and Mackenzie families. Known as the Holy Maiden of Winter, Justeaze was a fair-skinned woman created by accident after 900 years of failure. Accident or otherwise, she would be the one tasked with reclaiming the third magic, and she wished this in hopes of creating a utopia for humanity without hatred or suffering. She was willing to effectively die for the sake of this dream. More accurately, Justeaze became the core of the Greater Grail, a magical device that facilitates the Grail Wars. While this destroyed her body, her consciousness appears to linger within the Grail, communicating with those who manage to interface with it. She remains true to her goal, dormant in the Grail for 200 years as the wars wage on in futility. Inspired by her doll-like beauty, future Einzbern homunculi are made in her image. The most important of these homunculi is Irisviel von Einzbern. In order to address repeated failures, the Einzbern family sought a new strategy. The Greater Grail could only be activated in full with the magical energy gathered from defeated heroes. This mana was collected in a vessel called the Lesser Grail, which could easily be taken advantage of, as mages coveted it for the sheer power within. To ensure the Lesser Grail remained intact throughout the ritual, the Einzberns decided to give it a conscious, humanoid vessel for the Fourth War onwards. Irisviel, then, was built to act as a living Grail who, as the war proceeded, would gradually lose her autonomy before ultimately taking on the Grails. Born from a clinical tube, Irie came into this world as a blank slate, initially lacking the self-preservation needed from her. The family's overseer, Justeaze, thought to test her durability by abandoning her in the Einzbern forest, which was teeming with feral wolves. Before being torn to shreds, she was instead rescued by Kiritsugu Emiya, a freelance assassin hired to fight on behalf of the Einzberns as their master. Disgusted by this barbaric process, Kiritsugu took to raising Irisviel from the ground up, and in just a few short years, the two of them fell in love. Sadly, such love is never meant to be. Kiritsugu wants to use the Grail to bring about a miraculous world peace, but in order to do so, Irie must be sacrificed. Bravely then, she chooses to accept this fate, but to ensure he isn't left alone after her death, they have a daughter together. This child, Irisviel, becomes their collective hope for the future. As the very first homunculus born from a mother's womb, however, Ilia will become subject to experimentation unless they can finally win the war in its fourth iteration. To that end, Irisviel and Kiritsugu work together to deceive their opponents. Kiritsugu, the true Einzbern master, acts from the shadows, while Irie tends to his servant as a decoy. Built with abundant magic circuits, she makes for a great supporter, casting healing spells and transmuting an eagle familiar from long metallic wires. Everything she knows, she learned from Kiritsugu, including her ability to drive. This becomes her favorite activity, and she tends to go overboard on the road, flying through turns as a matter of sport. Unlike her husband, Irie is outwardly compassionate, acting as a mediator between Kiritsugu and his chivalrous saber servant. By the war's end, however, she steps down in order to become the Grail. In this vulnerable state, she is captured by the enemy and murdered. Like Justeaze, though, her consciousness enters the Greater Grail, only to discover it's been corrupted by Gráinne, a legend embodying all the world's evils. This corruption infests her, causing her to haunt her own daughter from beyond the grave. Her very existence, then, is tragic, and her only hope comes through a yearning to see Ilya once more. While the corrupted Grail takes Airi's shape when communicating, Kiritsugu refuses to let her appearance sway his resolve. Upon learning the Grail cannot grant his wish, he attempts to destroy it, accidentally setting Fuyuki ablaze. What drove him to such desperate measures? As a child, he traveled with his father Noritaka to Alimango Island for research. There, he met a native girl, Shirley, who absolutely radiated excitement and curiosity. Though her village lacked a proper school, she became literate while studying under the local priest, Father Simon. Craving further knowledge, she took to her own self-studies and eventually earned a master's degree by the age of 13. Impressed by this, Noritaka took her on as an assistant, and through proximity, she came to know Kiritsugu as a little brother. For as smart as she is, though, she opts to simplify his name into Carrie. Even though he's 4 years younger, it's clear that Carrie has a crush on Shirley. But before he can admit these feelings, tragedy strikes. Ignoring warnings from Father Simon, Shirley continues to aid Noritaka with his magecraft, fascinated by the idea of immortality. Foolishly, she underestimates how nefarious and cold mages can be. It's hard to tell given his flower experiments, which seem innocent enough, but on a human subject, his potions convert people into vampiric dead apostles. Wanting to validate his work, Shirley drinks the potion, which in turn robs her of her humanity. In the end, her good intentions wind up infecting the village, turning most everyone she knows into the undead. It's a shame, as Shirley is positively radiant. Her death becomes a critical part of Kiritsugu's resolve to hunt down other mages. As the undead villagers ravage Alimango Island, they are exterminated by members of the Holy Church and Mages Association. Separate from both of them is Natalia Kaminski, a freelance mercenary who rescues Kiritsugu and takes him in as her apprentice. Freelancers like her make a living by exploiting the Mages Association. This can mean selling information or sniping prey from the association's enforcers and offering them back at a price. She teaches Kiritsugu her trade, and most importantly, to prioritize his own survival over all else. Their relationship is strange. Natalia lacks the compassion of a mother and even makes a move on the young boy. She's a mage who fights other mages through a combination of magecraft and firearms. Her ancestors crossbred with succubi, giving her an aptitude for boosting her own magic by drinking a fellow mage's semen. This extra mana fuels her superhuman reflexes and coordination, allowing her to fight at an accelerated pace for a time. Her own apprentice, being male, could serve as a convenient source of fuel, but Natalia never goes that far. She may not show it, but she truly does care about him. It's just that she chooses to hide away her thoughts as a woman. Nonetheless, she becomes an important part of Kiritsugu's life. The two of them spend years hunting down renegade mages like Heinrich Zepter. While she's in it for the money, Kiritsugu acts out of his hatred of mages and the harm they bring to the world. For instance, a magic crest can be recovered from a mage's corpse and sold back to the association, but Kiritsugu would rather destroy them so they can never be used again. His time with Natalia comes to an end when they plot to eradicate Odd Borzak, a dangerous mage turned dead apostle. He makes use of contagious bee familiars that can easily eradicate an entire town. Natalia believes she subdued these bees ahead of time, failing to realize that Borzak was incubating them within his own body. Thus, when she eliminates him, his bees infest the airplane they're on, forcing her to hold up in the cockpit. There's a slim chance she can land the plane and escape safely, but this bears the risk of letting the bees spread to civilization. To prevent this, Kiritsugu makes the hard choice of firing a rocket at Natalia's plane before it can land. For the greater good, he sacrifices what is most dear to him, a process he'll continue going forward. While she regrets seeing her pupil turn into a machine of death, she takes comfort in knowing she meant something to him. Just as Kiritsugu was taken in by Natalia, he later takes on his own pupil, a young woman named Maiya Hisau. As a child, she was forced into the military and raised into a soldier. There, she was passed around by other soldiers, made to satisfy them until eventually getting pregnant. She gave birth to a son, but he was quickly taken from her. Her only escape from this hellish existence came when Kiritsugu rescued her. In fact, the name Maiya Hisau was one of his own invention, a false identity he forged to allow her a new life. Her existing combat experience makes her a great fit as Kiritsugu's subordinate, and she aids his efforts to win the Holy Grail War. As you could have guessed, Maiya simply went from one form of battle to another, and as such, has yet to fully develop her sense of self. Instead, she dedicates herself entirely to him, both in mind and body. The guilt Kiritsugu feels, knowing he'll have to sacrifice his beloved Irisviel, manifests in a form of self-punishment. By that, I mean he has an affair with Maiya, using her as an outlet for his frustrations and inadequacies. It is a senseless, emotionless endeavor, one that she permits without much thought. Despite this, she does display two key human elements that simply cannot be hidden or suppressed. First, she loves sweets, especially cake. In her free time, she visits dessert buffets and cleans them out, hoping nobody she knows will discover her gluttony. Second, she retains a desire to one day reunite with her lost son. All it took was holding him once to confirm her affection. Sadly, she has no means of finding the boy, let alone confirming his survival. Maiya opens up about this to Irisviel, and the two get along despite her being a mistress. Irie, selfless to a fault, is glad that Kiritsugu has someone he can adore after her death. To that end, Maiya guards Irie at the end of the war, only to fall prey to its berserker-class servant. Having failed her mission, she expects to die in solitude, but is overjoyed that her final moment can be spent in Kiritsugu's arms. Like most of the waifu in this story, I wonder how happy she could become under better circumstances. Kiritsugu's main rival during the Fourth Grail War is Kirei Kotone, a broken priest who is unable to feel love like a normal human. For his entire life, Kirei has had an unexplainable lust for evil, one that he sought to overcome by joining the House of God under his father. His final attempt to claim humanity was through marrying a woman. His choice of bride was morbid, a terminally ill woman named Claudia Hortensia. She was his experiment, a case of genuine pity, for no matter how much they could love each other, Claudia's immunodeficiency would surely claim her in just a few years. In the end, Claudia wound up living for 2 years, bearing Kirei a child before her condition took a turn for the worst. Certainly, she had fallen in love with him, but the feeling wasn't mutual. Kirei planned to end himself, taking responsibility for using her. However, that changed when Claudia insisted he truly did love her. To prove it, she thrust a blade into her own heart, claiming that the sight of Kirei's tears confirmed his affection. In truth, however, Kirei's rotten heart merely lamented his inability to kill her himself. She remains the last bastion of Kirei's hope, a testament to his irredeemable malice. There are no rules in the war that state a mage cannot commission aid from other sources. As such, Kenneth El Malloy Archibald entered the war with his fiancée, Sola-Ui Nuada-Re Sophia-Ri. Both of them hail from powerful bloodlines in the Mages Association, with their marriage being a way to bring their families into an alliance. Sola-Ui was born alongside her older brother. Typically, a mage family only raises one proper heir, as they only have one magic crest to pass down. Fearing political assassination, however, the family raised both siblings to become mages. In the end, though, they both survived to adulthood. Thus, while Sola-Ui could never succeed her lineage, she would make for a brilliant aid to some other mage. Her value as a noble became a matter of who she could marry. After her brother proved inept, squandering the Sophia-Ri's crest on a lost cause, she was pressured into marrying Kenneth, a prestigious clock tower lord. Due to her upbringing, Sola-Ui has a talent for self-preservation. She coldly manipulates others to set herself in favorable positions, even though she has no personal desire to do so. By extension, she has no genuine love for Gráinne, and it's fair to question whether she even has the capacity for love. Nonetheless, her loyalty is put to the test when she falls under the spell of Gráinne's servant. Diarmuid Uadivna of the Irish Fenian cycle is cursed by a magical love spot that rouses passion in the women he encounters. Love or otherwise, Sola-Ui becomes infatuated with Diarmuid and jumps at the chance to inherit him from her fiancé. This leads her to tormenting Gráinne, breaking his fingers until he agrees to hand over his command spells. Even with them, however, Diarmuid is hesitant to follow her orders, questioning whether she's truly acting on behalf of their mutual lord. Ultimately, she is brutally wounded and taken captive by Maiya. Barely alive, she is used as a bargaining chip to force Gráinne into giving up the war. While she never loved him, his affection for her shines through as he signs away his right to fight, only for both of them to be swiftly executed as victims of Kiritsuku's deceitful ambition. The reason Diarmuid was reluctant to trust Sola-Ui came from his past experience in life. As a knight of Fianna, he served under his captain Finn McCool, a renowned warrior who earned the praise of Cormac MacArt, one of Ireland's High Kings. In celebration, Finn was set to marry Cormac's daughter, the lovely young maiden Gráinne. However, she didn't want this marriage, making it all the easier for her to fall under the spell of Diarmuid's magic spot. She immediately clung to him, insisting they both run away together. Diarmuid reluctantly complied, caught between wanting to acknowledge her feelings and the guilt of betraying his lord. After some time, Finn McCool publicly forgave and even endorsed their affair. In the end, though, his resentment only grew, prompting him to leave Diarmuid to die a miserable death at the horns of a demonic boar. Essentially, Gráinne's a woman so beautiful that she spurred irreparable conflict between two of Ireland's finest heroes. The Tohsaka family was present for the initial founding of Fuyuki's Grail Wars. Their lineage continues on with Tokiomi Tohsaka and his wife Aoi. Originally born to the Zenjo family, Aoi was sought after for her birthing prowess. By that, I mean women of the Zenjo family were known to give birth to especially gifted mages. Thus, even though she herself lacked magic circuits, Tokiomi proposed to her, and she accepted, knowing full well the harsh world of magecraft. In order to bear his children, she abandoned her old life, leaving everyone behind except for her childhood friendship with Kariya Mato. She gifted Tokiomi not one, but two magically potent daughters. This became both a blessing and a curse. As I mentioned earlier, mage families only need one heir, and Tokiomi found it a shame not to give both his daughters a chance to succeed. Conveniently, the Mato bloodline had run dry and was in need of a proper heir. Thus, Tokiomi offered up his daughter Sakura to be adopted into the Matos. This meant condemning Sakura to the Matos' vile crestworms, but it also meant that she and her sister Rin could each inherit a family's crest of their own. Aoi accepts this reasoning, as many other mages would do the same. Her friend Kariya, on the other hand, is shocked to hear this development. Harboring unrequited feelings toward Aoi, as well as an earnest desire to rescue Sakura from the worm pit, he offers himself as the Mato's heir. In a delusional fantasy, he thinks he can save Sakura, kill Tokiomi in the war, and earn Aoi's love in the process. This naively ignores Aoi's own feelings, such that when she finds her husband's corpse, she curses Kariya for robbing her of her happiness. Even though Kariya hadn't actually killed Tokiomi, his fragile dream nonetheless shattered, along with his sanity. In a fit of rage, he nearly strangles Aoi to death, causing her severe brain damage. While she survives the war itself, her mind is broken, and she's confined to a wheelchair for the few remaining years of her life. Her passing leaves the Tohsaka estate to their eldest daughter Rin. It is a burden no child should have to bear, though one might argue this conclusion was inevitable, as Aoi willingly embraced the culture of mages, sealing her children's fate. Aoi and Rin moved out of town for the duration of the Fourth Grail War. Even so, Rin continued to attend Fuyuki's Yatsushiro-dai Elementary School. One of her classmates and closest friends is a wholesome girl named Kotone. The two of them met when Rin defended Kotone from being bullied. Unfortunately, she, along with many other children in the city, are kidnapped by serial killer Ryunosuke Uryu and his caster servant. Kotone is about to meet the same fate as other poor victims, tortured to death in nightmarish body horror experiments. In the Fate Zero novel, it's implied Kotone does become a victim, but in the anime series, Rin bravely ventures into the city at night, rescuing her and a handful of other captives by confronting Ryunosuke on his way to the sewers. I prefer this outcome far more, as at least some of these kids escape the worst fate imaginable. This is gonna sound strange, but our last waifu for now is barely conscious. Weaver Velvet, a young student at the clock tower, sneaks his way into the Grail War by stealing his professor's servant catalyst. In order to blend in with the populace, Weaver opts to live with one of Fuyuki's existing residents. Via suggestion or hypnosis, he can deceptively insert himself into any family as one of their own. His victims are Martha Mackenzie and her husband Glenn, an elderly Canadian couple who moved to Japan over 40 years ago. This was a work-related shift, and Martha accepted it so long as their new home could be on a hill with a skylight. For a time, they used to live with their son Chris, but when he became an adult, he took his own family back to Toronto, leaving Martha and Glenn all alone. This was convenient for Weaver, who chose to blend in as their grandson while taking part in the Fourth War. He means them no real harm, but his actions are still deceptive. Despite this, Glenn and Martha are overjoyed to have him around the house, as it takes them back to better times before their son's real family moved away. It's been years since Martha last smiled, so in a way, Weaver unintentionally saves them. Years after the fact, Weaver still remains in touch with them, sending them tickets to leave Fuyuki during the following Fifth War. Of course, that fifth Holy Grail War is covered in Fate Stay Night, which we'll get to next time. Hopefully these 11 waifu have sated your appetite for now. Some of them might even be your favorites. If so, let me know in the comments below, and check out my Waifu Files playlist for even more videos to hold you over. Until next time, celebrate your fandom!
I want to give a special shout out to all my $10 and up supporters. VideoGamer75, Dante Pendragon, Stephen Elak, Otaku Mom, Mystic Samurai 1983, Freebrick, Alexis Yukio Gomez Yamato, Lunarworks, Link Pendrago, Olympian Doll, Observer Bellis, James Hewitt, Uncanny EXP, Crow Calum, Saul Soto, Tristan Riggin, Major, Winter's Edge, Sneer Cachette, Dionysus, Caitlin P, Sogai CH, Sith Lord 906, Vladimirovna, The Taz 96, Kengo X 77, and Alistair Bernadotte. Thank you all so much.